Hi folks, welcome to IMB Magazine. My name is Clive Forth from MTB Skills and you're joining us for the Skills and Technique feature. Each issue we're going to be looking at different techniques and the core skills to riding mountain bikes. So sit back and relax and enjoy.
Hey! Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome to another edition of IMB Skills and Techniques. It's the slip and slide. We're going to be looking at some of the techniques that we've learned in the previous editions and seeing really how they come into play in this really beautiful and special time of year. So there's no excuse not to get out on the bike. Might be fading light. We're going to look at doing some night riding stuff in an upcoming feature, but for now let's get down and dirty. Excellent. So as you're going to see in the clips coming up, I'm going to ride this section of trail. And this is one of those areas that really requires a little bit of everything we've done. We're always looking up, looking ahead, reading the terrain. Really, really important in wintry conditions because you're looking into wet areas of ground, trying to anticipate how much you're going to sink in. And obviously that gets you thinking about your gear selection and your speed control. Do you need to carry a bit of speed into that to be able to like squelch through the mud? Or are you going to be slow into it, feeling the depth, feeling if there's anything in the bottom of the slop, and then having to be in the right gear to power your way out? There's lots of times where through this section I'm going to have to do kind of like little power wheelie shapes, so my pedal time and my crank position is all important. It's all important in this stuff as well because of the rocks I've got to navigate around. Typically I'm using a slightly bigger gear than normal, so I may go up a gear just so that I've got the torque and the drive when I need it. And if I get that magic turbo train moment where the wheel spins out and I accelerate hard, at least I'm in a gear to chase that round and hopefully find traction and get some drive again. So up here we've got some deep slop. Don't really know what's going on in there till I've ridden it. Thankfully I came through here this morning, so I've got a gauge of how deep that is. You'll see me looking up, looking ahead through that section, and what I'm spotting is this ditch and this burn, or stream as you call it in the south, running past us here. So I need to set up for that. I'm going to pop a little power wheelie shape to get through that so I'm not hitting in the bank on the far side. Beyond it I go into a little traverse section. The bike's going to want to slip down and off into the mud and the bog on the low side there. So again, looking ahead, line choice is all key, gear selection is key, and then maybe the odd moment I'm lifting the rear wheel over things, up onto a bit of granite to get grip over a route. So it really does, this type of riding really does encompass all the skills we've looked at so far. Great stuff. So there you go. As you can see in the clips, there's a lot going on in there, isn't there? It's probably too much to take in if you just watch it full frame as a whole riding shot. Hopefully we've got some cutaways in there and you can look at some more of the detail going on, what's happening underneath the bike below the wheels. So it's very typical of our neck of the woods, Scotland. We get a lot of wet mud. You can see the liquid content in it and you're hoping that there's hard pack underneath. You may end up in an area where the mud's sticky. We've become masters of mud in mountain biking, particularly in the British Isles. Probably why everybody performs so well in wet races on a World Cup circuit. So here I've got an off camber. The bike's going to want to come down into this flooded section and I'm trying to stay up on the high ground. I'm anticipating all those little slips and slides, and there's even some granite in there that I can get up onto if my line choice is good. It may require a little bit more physical effort here to do that, but I'll get a recovery elsewhere. Rather than slipping, wheel spinning, stopping, I'm going to burn a lot more energy recovering from that mistake, as well as burn a lot more energy getting on and off the bike and getting going again. It's really rewarding sections to clean and stuff like this, and as I mentioned earlier, it does encompass everything we've looked at so far through the features. So we've gone from wet and slippy to wet and kind of grippy, but don't be fooled. In this kind of environment, leaf litter is covering a load of stuff. We're going to be looking out for sniper routes, anticipating where they might be. So coming in near the trees, right, going to get roots in here. Is there any knuckly roots poking out in amongst all this leaf litter? So hard to see. So you're always hanging loose, riding loose, anticipating the slip. Here's another classic thing that happens in kind of au natural terrain, and that's where you get a bit that's slightly rutted up and you get this little bulldozer bank on the inside edge of a turn. So if I start leaning into that, that's going to want to push my tyres out and start to bulldozer the bank. So if you feel the front going, ease up on the steering, straighten it up, and maybe have a foot out ready to anticipate that back end slipping and sliding out, and you can recover it with a dab. So brake control is a big thing here. Remember practicing drop-offs, we were looking at modulating the brakes. It's the same thing in this terrain. I'm going to be a lot less front brake biased than I would be on a dry day, and predominantly back brake in this type of terrain at the moment, just because if the front does catch a little sniper root or rock in there, it's going to want to skip out on me, and it's a lot harder to control and recover than the back end slipping out. So this is one time where we do cheat the rules a little bit and we'll be a bit more back brake bias. Get out and have a go at it. You're going to see us ride this section in a moment. Not that familiar with this bit of trail, to be perfectly honest, which is always good to get thrown in at the deep end and think on your feet. Now, the way that I view the trail is as much room this way as I can get, as much room this way really helps me interpret it slightly different. And if you want really to see somebody interpret lines and think about lines like nobody else, go and watch the latest Chris Ackring video. Absolutely amazing. The guy is probably one of the best bicycle riders in the world at the moment, and he really does live and breathe this thing that I've been preaching for years, which is like trail trials. So all about moving, and that really involves him seeing a line and being able to make it stick. So here we've actually got quite a lot of options. It's very easy to get pulled into this kind of obvious ride line, but what you'll see in the footage and the couple of examples that we give, it really messes up the flow through the next section. This is speed control, isn't it? We're looking ahead, obviously, line choice, speed control, all coming in at once. If I come in here quick, I'm kind of almost forced into this line, whereas if I slow it up, give myself time to look at all the options, I can widen my approach, doing all my speed control up here, which sets me up on the inside over this clump of roots. Then I get a straighter line through the next section. If I get funneled into here, which is that middle lane of the motorway that you can easily get pulled into, then I have to start to make a bit of a meal of things down here. And what happens is I end up doing a lot of turning and a lot of braking where I really don't need to be doing it. And I don't want to be doing it because I'm into more rocks and roots. Come on down and we'll get a closer look at that. So I've given myself a chance to look at my line, set myself up and read the whole section through down to its exit point. And as I say, my favoured line is that inside line. It puts me straight up over a boulder. Clean, he grips. If it's green, it slips. So I can get up and over that without too much slip and slide, funnel it through this gap, and then I could be off the brakes down here. And that's key because I've got a big telltale. I've got a big tree here, load of roots that I'm coming down over. I know there's going to be more roots on the exit. There's going to be roots everywhere in it. So if I can be off the brakes, that's all the better. I've not got that braking force which is causing little slip outs and little slide outs. On the flip side, as you'll see in the footage, if I take that wider line, I'm on the turn into these snaggly rocks. I then get redirected through them. Yeah, I might be able to cut back in here, but I'm having to turn in here and I can see a route from this point of view. You know, I end up funneling out round the outside, and then I've got to take a right turn down here and I'm into a load of slippery roots. And I've killed all the speed. I've had to just dump all the speed out of it up there to make all these little turns rather than being in a straight line. And now down through these roots, I'm on them for ages. I've got loads of slip opportunity. If I can hit them quick, I get minimal deflection. If I hit them slow, I get deflected a lot more, particularly off the front wheel, and that's not a nice feeling, as there is a tendency for folks to want to sit into the back of the bike in these environments rather than be up there in the centre. Sink into the back, front starts to come light, arms are extended, hyper-extended, then the front's moving away from you. Don't be shy. Stay in the centre of the bike. Drop low, centered vertically, not by sinking back and poking your bum out the back end. Let's have a look at the clips, and now you can see that in a bit more detail. So seen from below, it's a whole different scene, isn't it? You can now see this big route on the exit point. Another big route in here. Luckily we're coming over that one square, and if you end up in these still on the turn, they're running down the way, they really work against you. That tighter line, getting a quick little turn in here and straight lining across them, I don't even know where I ended up going. I'm just hanging loose, and it doesn't matter if the bike slides about, it'll grip up again somewhere. But yeah, I just carry more speed through that on that Cool, so winter riding is going to require, you know, a lot of additional skill, and what we can do to help maintain control in these slip and slide situations is make some adaptations to the bike. Now, I don't choose a particularly heavy cut in my tyres, and I actually run tyres that are sort of part worn are my favourite because they roll a little bit quicker. And to be honest, I'm not looking for so much grip in the back end. I don't mind if the back end's sliding about a bit in the descents, and generally with a good bit of technique you can compensate for that for traction when you're climbing as well. If I do put a fresh tyre on, man, do I notice a difference, because there's so much more meat on the bone. But in this situation I've got a part worn Maverick tyre on, and all I'm looking at really is having good key side knobbies, so that when I'm leaning the bike in, and that's key, you've really got to commit to corners and lean and tip the bike in, being independent from the bike to get the bike on its edge and cutting in to get the grip. I can soften my tyre compound if I want more traction, but I can certainly drop my tyre pressures a little bit. I'm weighing like 59 kilos on a good day, 60 something if I've been on the pies, and I'm in the sort of 20 psi range, sometimes a bit over, sometimes a bit under. It does fluctuate a bit. I'm running a stock carbon frame with 160 mil of travel, so it's quite compliant and soft, and I'll soften it a little bit, not massively again, but I will supple up my suspension just a little bit for the wetter days. So hitting out nearly at full travel at the minute. Got my rubbers as a good guide, you know, and again playing with the pressures a little, riding slower so I'm not hitting into things harder, gonna make the tyre work a bit more. So adjusting your setup a little bit, you know, choosing a different cut and compound of tyre can help, different tyre pressure as well as different suspension settings. Don't be shy of playing around with those things. If you're not familiar with them yourself, you should have a good bike shop near you, and somebody in there who rides mountain bikes should be able to see you the right way. Or go and do a course, in learning how to set up your suspension. And there are other digital aids out there that you can use as well. Whoa, there we go, folks. It's another edition of the IMB Skills and Technique feature. Get out there, practice your skills. We'll see you on the flip side.